Hello and welcome back to Girls Across the Pond, episode 4.
Take two.
Yeah, this is our closest episode to actually being released. So this is coming out on the 27th of April and recording it right now it's the 26th of April. So typically we pre-record all of our episodes, but this one's pretty close to we had some audio difficulties in our last episode, so we had to re-record episode 4. So here we are. Episode 4.
Yeah, and it's usually my fault as I'm just learning this. This podcasting genre is just sort of throwing me for a loop. But hopefully you can hear us and there's not a lot of humming and our voices are clear.
Yeah.
And we're doing Girls Across Pond. We have a great show today, and hopefully we can fit it all in. We want to talk about the Beatles, so we have lots to talk about with that, and some fun quizzes to go through. And we're going to do another personality test called Myers Briggs, which
This is
is
my favorite personality test of all of them.
this is your thing. So I'll let
I
you take
love
that.
Myers
So
Briggs.
grab a cup of coffee and come and join with us at Girls Across the Pond.
Woo woo woo! How was your week this week?
Well, my week was really good. Because this is out of order, I've just returned from Colorado, but you don't know I've gone and I won't go until episode 7. But I just got back from Colorado and it was freezing
mm.
there. It made me realize how nice it is here in Florida. However, I got off the plane and I hadn't really felt the humidity here yet, even though it's been really quite humid. And I got off the plane and it just hit me like a ton of bricks. It probably about 8:45 at night, and it was still up in the 80s, and the humidity level was in the 70 range, and it just felt so hot and muggy when I got off the plane. And the next day was the first day I've actually been here that I thought, okay, I'm feeling the humidity. And of course, it's April, so we've got a long way to go until summer. But it was close to 80% humidity and it was 92 degrees outside. And I thought, let me get myself a comparison. And I looked at the weather in Colorado, and that was 15% humidity in comparison to our
Yeah, it's really
80.
dry in Colorado.
So dry. My nose was bleeding the entire time I was there. It was ridiculous. Every time I blew my nose, it was just like bleeding. Stop, my nose bleeds between the altitude and the dryness. But it's lovely to be back. It made me
Mhm.
realize how much I like it here.
Mm.
So, yeah, how are you doing, darling?
I'm doing well. I've been actually neck deep in school assignments. Because of COVID, my school basically from my course suspended a whole bunch of the first semester assignments to later in second semester because of lockdown and such. So everybody on my course has had a really chill school year with just only facing one assignment at a time in deadlines. And in this past month, they've just all coagulated into this massive chaos of holy crap, I've got to do all these assignments. And a lot of it's original composition and stuff. So it's been really stressful. I've been doing 5-hour Mac lab sessions, which has just been very draining. But it's weird because I'm just sitting in front of a computer, but it's really really draining. I spent 5 hours this morning from 9 a.m. This morning in the Mac labs, and but I finished the composition that I was working on, and it sounds really nice. It's an orchestration. I'm pretty proud of it. It's orchestrated, and it has the full instrument scope, the full instrument range that is included are all the string family like violin, cello, viola. We've got some trombones, some French horns, and some trumpets, and then some piano, the percussiveness of the piano body itself, some toms, a choir, my own voice, and then some harp as well. So I was pretty proud of how it turned out. I really liked it. It's in a really fun key signature. So I kind of on the compositional side of things, nerded out from like my love of music theory. I was like, oh, I'm gonna write this in E Mixolydian over here, and so that's what I've been up to. But I'm actually pretty proud of like how it's turned out so far. So I'm at the time of filming this, I'll be going in tomorrow for another 5 hour session to mix it all after post composing it to submit it the next day.
That's the one you played for me yesterday, right?
Yes, but it sounds different now and
it
it's longer.
always it always progresses. I love
Mm.
hearing the rough cuts. There's just nothing better than just hearing songs at their inception and how they start, um, which is great. So I love it when you play those for me, and I can just get my appetite whet for what's coming ahead. But I hope you're hanging in there and staying healthy and not running yourself into the ground.
Yeah, I mean, like we it's currently at the time of recording this, it's 9:50 at night for me in England, and I just got back from a studio session, which was also 4 hours, 4 hours. So I've just been pooped, and then before that, I was at a different studio session. So I like today has just been a very, very recording heavy day because I was in the Mac labs for 5 hours. I had a business lecture. I had like an hour off, and then I went to my studio lecture, so in studio class, and then had like 30 minutes of a break, and then went into a 4 hour recording session, and now I'm here. So
Nice.
long
And
day.
you're able to get back on campus now. Things are opening up, yes?
Correct. I've
Nice.
been on campus all day.
Nice. And how does the city feel now that things are opening? Is it bustling?
Yeah, it's really populated. Um, but I don't really go out too much, so what can
Because
I
you're busy
say?
recording. Yeah.
I'm busy
I
recording and I'm just very introverted anyways, so I'm just like I don't really feel the desire to go into a city full of bustling people after a long 5 hour recording session. I'd like to sleep instead.
well, I'm glad to hear you're sleeping. It's funny when we were traveling or when I was traveling, it was it was very quiet, which is unusual. We've traveled quite a bit during this pandemic, and it's interesting to see. There's so many times where you have to social distance here, there, and everywhere, and then you get on a plane and it's just packed, and you think, well, why did I care if I was 6 feet apart? Now that I'm sitting next to this stranger I don't know for the next however many hours. But this last time I traveled, it was very, very empty. There was,
Mm,
and in fact, on the way back, I had the whole row to myself. No other people. There's nobody in the seats in front of me. The airports were quiet, and it was an easy travel that way. I wonder if that's going to be more of the new norm as
during
things open up a bit.
during lockdown, I got so used to the city as like quiet as it was that I didn't mind going out, and I actually like had like a self-doubt of like am I really an introvert because I'm going out so frequently. But it was because like when I kid you not, like there were like during the day, like I'd see like 20 people out on the streets. Like it was like really empty, kind of like a ghost town. And for someone like me, I was like this is great. Dude, I can go wherever I want. People aren't around to annoy me, and I can just get all the things I need to do and get them done. Pow pow pow. And I went out. I've been out since lockdown has lifted, and it's just been bustling. I literally forgot so many people live in the city. And I've done like double takes on the streets because I'm like, how have I not realized so many people lived in this city? And it's reminded me how introverted I am because anytime I literally need to go out for like a necessity, like more chicken or something, I need more food. I'm like,
More
but
porridge.
do I really want to go out when there's gonna be so many people on the streets? Not really. Maybe I'll
Yeah.
just have porridge instead of chicken tonight.
Yeah. There's still the fear of catching this thing.
And fear of people. Period.
I know you love people.
Yeah. What can I say?
So I wanted to start today, and I always start these podcasts saying I want to start, and I don't know why I do that because we actually do discuss things that we're going to talk about. This isn't my podcast, but we have had a discussion that we would like to chat about the Beatles because we both love them. I'm having right ear trouble today. There we go. We both love the Beatles. What's that?
Nothing. I was chuckling.
Oh, checking at me. I know. My first thought is, why are they even still relevant after all these years? I mean, they started out in the early 1960s, so they're pushing 60 now, right? Well, it's 2021, so they've been around for more than 60 years. How are they even on anybody's radar right now? And I want to ask you, as a young person who's, especially someone who's into the music industry, uh, why why are they even still, why are we even referencing the Beatles anymore?
Because the Beatles were right around the time when there was a really big technology boom in music recording, and right as like we were starting to really develop recording software and like really starting to get things recorded in more than just here's one tape recording a live band or something. Like it was really when people started melding tracks together, and when synthesizers were like really starting to come out and people could really start to create all these weird things that people hadn't done before, and it was very experimental. And the Beatles were one of the groups that were very much at like the forefront of that. I I mean, personally, I'm a huge Beatles fan. The Beatles have been my childhood like band that I loved and doted on since I was literally born. But I don't really have any friends that like, I mean, my flatmate also really enjoys them, and my best friend back home also quite enjoys the Beatles. Um both of them I would say not to the extent I do, cuz like I would consider myself like an ultra big Beatles fan, um, because I've always loved everything they've done, their whole like discography. I loved the movies. I've just like always like, and I've got like a sense of like inspiration from them and stuff like that. Versus like some of my friends who are just like casual Beatles listeners. But I also know quite a few people, and by quite a few people I mean literally every other person that wasn't the two people that I just mentioned, that are my age, that are like the Beatles aren't everything that they're hyped up to be, and like don't like the Beatles. I have a vivid memory in middle school talking to somebody, and obviously I'm not going to like publicly expose them on this podcast. Um and I was talking about a Beatles song, a Beatles album in I think like science class or something. I was just like talking about how much I love the Beatles, and I mentioned something about like, oh, like Ringo looks really good when he was playing drums in like Blank Shot or whatever. And somebody said to me, I remember this kid turning to me and saying like, the Beatles like nowadays for like our hip everyday and age are really ugly in like comparison to like our like boy band standard. And it was somebody who liked One Direction. They said that, and I remember I just had like this ultra like, I guess the only way to describe it was disappointment in the fact that like this person that told me that, they weren't a Beatles fan, and it hurt me because they only saw this group on a surface level that was their appearance, and it
Mm-hmm.
was, I don't find any of those members attractive, therefore I don't like their music. And I'm not like, I don't want to say open minded to it, but like it was just like this whole other standard that they had, and that it was like this connection that you have to be attractive for like your music to be good. And I was saying like, my point wasn't even like the fact, I wasn't trying to like persuade people that like Ringo was like some sexy drummer or something. I was just like, oh
Because
yeah,
he's
this is,
not.
I was like, this is a good shot of Ringo like playing the drums here. And they were like, well, honestly, they're all really ugly and I only like Harry Styles or whatever. And I just like, I I have to say, like, yeah, I really judged that person negatively because I was like so hurt, and I was like, do you really only see musicians for their face? And it hurt me. But I know like a lot of people that not necessarily have that exact opinion, but have opinions that like the Beatles are quote unquote old school, old style. They're like what my parents liked, and I don't like that. I like rap, I like pop, or whatever the genre that's hip to like is. So I know quite a few people that have that thought on the Beatles too.
Oh, that's interesting. That just shoots my theory down. Uh,
But
what I've
also, they still know the Beatles.
Yeah, they're just relevant. I see a lot of people, and I talk to a lot of younger people who definitely make comments, and obviously if you can go to Target and you can buy a t-shirt with it. Although some people would, buy like a Led Zeppelin shirt and have zero idea of anything that Led Zeppelin has
Yeah,
done
yeah.
or whatever. So they'll just wear it because it's kind of cool. But there's a lot of people. I actually mentioned something to someone at the Target store who was working there because I had seen a Beatles shirt, and they were going on about how great they were. And it struck me. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this, because this kid couldn't have been more than like 20, 22 years old. He was very young. And he was like, "Oh, yeah, they're such a great band. I love the Beatles." And I thought, that's pretty cool. They've been obviously broken up long before this kid was even a thought, his parents.
Mm.
But he still really, really liked the music. And some people go back and listen to like Frank Sinatra or Bobby Darin. I love Bobby Darin. Oh, love Bobby Darin. um, and we weren't part of that time and space, but we can still appreciate it. But the thing that I find about the Beatles in particular is that their influences are still around. And maybe the people who you spoke to who liked One Direction or whatever band you just said, um, maybe they don't like the Beatles, but they don't realize that what they're listening to is music
A
that has
offspring of
come,
it.
that, yeah, exactly, that has come from the things that the Beatles did. Um,
Yeah. I think
Obviously,
oh, go ahead.
they were one of the first bands to write their own music and come up with their own songs. That was brand new in the
And
50s.
to be on the recording side of it too.
Yeah, that is so true, because even up until like Elvis time, and I'm not a huge follower of Elvis, and I hope I don't get this wrong, but I don't think he wrote a lot of his own music. He might have contributed to some of the songs, but I think he had songwriters that wrote his own stuff. And I don't really think he played a lot of instruments. He dabbled a little bit in the guitar and a little bit on the piano and whatever, but he wasn't really a musician. He was a singer and a performer, and he was, a great vocalist and really nice to look at, easy on the eyes, and that's great. But that's kind of like coming out of the Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin kind of genre. But the Beatles were, like you say, they got into the studio and they were nitty gritty and wrote their own things. And I remember listening to an interview with Paul McCartney. And what song was he? I can't remember which song it is, but I can hear it in my head. Um, and he was talking about the bridge that they wrote to it, and he went off and he's like, "Oh, we've never done this before, and there's a new type of a bridge to a song, and we'll take it this way." And they were just experimenting on things that were so new to the ear, and I think they were genius to do that, because that wasn't something that was heard of prior to that time.
Yeah, I think not only that, but then you take that in and of itself and then mix it with the fact that they were also experimenting with new recording techniques. Like you could go depth, like so in depth into all of like the Beatles recording techniques that they were using, because like, they were working with tapes that they cut up and like re-put back together, and like through all these like different layered takes. They had some things playing in reverse. They were like recording tracks on top of each other. Like it's like some really crazy technique stuff that, I mean, like it is exactly what I was saying earlier. It's like the technological development of like that was really a time in recording history when it comes to like music recording, when not only were we be like able to like, okay, I can record this concert live, and you can listen to somebody performing live on a vinyl or on a tape or anything like that, but now I can get into a studio and I can record it in multiple takes. I can get rid of the times I sound bad. I can layer my own voice on top of each other so that I'm singing with myself and harmonize with it. And I can also take out parts of my I could take a guitar take and I could cut out like different intervals of it and then stitch it back together so then it sounds like all chopped up and different. So, there's all these different recording techniques that they were trying, and then they've got all this electronic influence that was first starting to get like, the invention of the synthesizer, not invention, but like the really like mainstream
Application of
use
it.
of the synthesizer
Mhm.
in a lot of electronic music. That was like really starting to get big during that time too. So they were using a lot of techniques that people hadn't heard before, And it was this, it's interesting because I remember I watched like a 45-minute documentary on this, because I'm a music nerd and a Beatles nerd, and together that creates me wanting to learn about the Beatles recording techniques. I watched this like 45-minute documentary about how the Beatles bridged classical music into pop and like saved the classical genre, quote unquote, because I say but people might not know, so I'm going to explain it. We have like, in when people say classical music, we're referring to like, quote unquote Beethoven and like all these classical composers, Mozart and stuff, classical genre music composers. But if we look at like the Baroque era specifically, when music theory like really got gritty and like really specific, and you have the invention of sonata allegro form and like all these rules with music, then progress a little bit farther and go into like the 1900s, turn of the century in the 1900s, or not turn of the century, well, but 1900s, right? And
It's turn of the century.
all these, I just lost my train of thought. All these like, there was a whole bunch of things going on during that time. New genres were becoming popular. 1920s was like really when like jazz started developing, really, first and foremost. And so we were taking theory that was used in the classical standpoint, that was like these classical rules, but also in that time there was also such like discontent just in the world, like with World War I and like all these things, that a lot of people felt like, honestly, I've felt like astrayed from the classical set of rules. One of the reasons being because classical music was supposed to be originally, um, one of its like main points was to be like an ode to God and like music of God's beauty.
Right.
And with the world being in this chaotic mode as it was during like World War I and all these bad things happening, people were like, well, screw God. Not saying that, but like people, obviously didn't
Yes.
feel like the world was all sunshine and rainbows.
Right.
So then there was like this stray away from this musical theory convention that we know in classical music, the common classical sounds that people associate with classical music. And that's how, jazz theory developed as its own thing. But when you take a look at the Beatles, which, are a little bit farther down the road, things are straying even further. And then you get things like abstract and atonal, and like John Cage's 433, which is literally just 4 minutes and 33 minutes, 4 minutes and 33 seconds of sheer silence. That's literally what it is. John Cage's 433. And it's a piece demonstrating that music is a like idea, and that silence itself is music. But people go really far away from what classical music was, and then the Beatles come and they bring back that classical pull, what we're used to. But now they're taking that old technique and they're applying it to their new synthesizers, to their new recording techniques, to this new ability and new technology that we have, while still incorporating the old. And so it was like this blend of old and new, which a lot of other artists did too. I think the Beatles did it in like such a way that was catchy, got stuck in people's heads, and put them at the forefront of like this big movement. That's my 2 cents on the matter. And I mean, obviously, I don't have every historical event memorized, and I'm sure I'm not 100% right, but that's my argument on why the Beatles are such a big deal.
No, I tend to agree exactly with you. Some of their early stuff, and like, please, please me, and I want to hold your hand. I mean, it's very simplistic, very, very simple. But I think as with anyone, once you start something and you dip your toe in and you get, the affirmation that what you're doing is good, i.e., the songs going up the charts and you're selling records and all the little girls are loving you and all that kind of thing, you start to feel very confident. And that gives you almost the permission to start exploring things. And excuse me, I think that John and Paul were, in particular, were very, very creative people. And um, I think just being as well accepted as they were, it just sort of elevated their egos enough to really just let them, kind of loose in the studio, if you will. And they just started exploring and coming up with some really, really great things that, as you say, hadn't been done before. Um, and I mean, groundbreaking stuff. And, they were very, very fortunate to be paired up with George Martin, who is oftentimes referred
The
to as the
fifth Beatle.
fifth Beatle, exactly. A genius of himself. And he, if you have a good producer and you're a talented artist, that's a really good combination because the producer can bring out some of the things that you're wanting to do, or that you might have the in an embryo stage, and they can just take it to the next level. And George Martin certainly filled that void anywhere it would appear. He was great.
I think something that's really great about the Beatles music that like really set them apart is you can look at it on a surface level if you don't want to go really depth into like the theory and recording techniques. You could just be like, hey, at the end of the day, Let It Be is just a really catchy song and it's
Yeah,
really pretty and I really like it. And you can just look at it at that far and never go deeper into it. And you can just be like, yeah, this music's just really good and it speaks to me. And I feel like a ton of people already just felt that anyways. But then anybody that's interested in looking at, oh, well, how did they get the guitar sound on X track? Or how did they record this one orchestra, quartet that they were interested in things? And then you actually like delve into that and you realize like, oh, these guys aren't just like, some musicians that are interested in putting like a 1-5-4 progression over their songs. They actually are really composing the same way classical composers like Beethoven and Mozart did in that way. They're composing, they're not just songwriting. So
yeah.
there's like the two appeals.
It's interesting. I was never a huge fan of the Rolling Stones. I like the Rolling Stones. I certainly respect the Rolling Stones. I think Mick Jagger, and I know I've mentioned before, I'm a biography reader. Read so many biographies about people throughout the music industry, and Mick Jagger's name appears in, I would say, just about every single one. He kind of had his toes everywhere and was influencing people. And he was a bit of a grandfather to all these up and coming artists. And he was a real genius in and of himself, let alone the Rolling Stones, where he performed with. But I never felt like their music was, what's the right word? I don't know, profound. I thought it was good, solid rock, a little poppy,
Yeah,
real
that
edgy.
I think it's a matter of opinion. I've met plenty of people that are like, I don't understand the hype around the Beatles. Personally, I'm a Queen person, or personally, I really like blah 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 or blah or blah, and
Oh,
that's
well,
fine.
Queen.
That's why different genres exist.
Yeah. No, I'm just trying to think of Beatles contemporaries. Queen is a whole other. I mean, we could do a whole podcast talking
I
about
wrote a
Queen. They were,
20,000 word essay on how Queen took influence from Beethoven. I could honestly go into a full tangent on that, so we'll stray away. Let's take a
yeah,
Beatles quiz.
yeah. No, I'm just thinking Beatles contemporaries. If you think, the Dave Clark Five and the Rolling Stones and the Who, um, very, great, great bands. But I don't think any of them were as creative and as progressive as the Beatles were in sort of moving the music industry forward. Um, and for me, when I think of what was so great about the Beatles, it's that you could look at Jumpin' Jack Flash and Satisfaction and all the other great things that the Rolling Stones did, but there was nothing super creative about it. Although I love those songs, I have them on playlists. I don't want the Rolling Stone fans to come and beat me up because they were great. But yeah, that I think that element is what kept the Beatles so far above it. They were very lucky, I think, to not be labeled as a boy band because
Oh,
you know
they definitely were.
yeah, but the fact they were busy writing and playing their own
Yeah,
things and were serious musicians, I think kind of elevated them one step above it. But yeah,
I do
all the
agree.
the little girls yelling, "Who was your favorite Beatle?"
Are you asking me? Oh, I thought you were just like quoting. Well, Ringo obviously was my favorite.
Ringo, obviously. So everybody has a favorite Beatle. Mine was George. I loved George. He was my guy. So everybody had a favorite. But I mean, if you look at people like the Rolling Stones or the Who, you wouldn't go, "Ooh, Roger Daltrey, he's my favorite." I mean, you just
I
would.
in any band I typically have a favorite.
Do you? Who's your favorite
Yeah, I
Rolling
don't know
Stone?
why. I never followed the Rolling Stones. I could not name one member of the Rolling Stones.
Therein you have it. You know Mick
But I mean
Jagger.
like of the bands that I follow, I've always typically had a favorite member of the band.
Gotcha. Do you think the movies that the Beatles did helped them or hurt them?
I don't know. I think I enjoyed them. I think it was great content for their fans. I I wasn't around when they were published, so I can't say how they did amongst the audiences.
Well, I
But
wasn't either. Well, I
so
was, but I was
I don't know.
teeny tiny.
I mean, I stand by the fact that Help is my favorite movie. Period. Just the
Yeah.
Beatles Help movie is like, I just love that movie.
I think initially those movies, especially Help on a Hard Day's Night, both elevated um, their platform. Not that it needed much elevating at that point, but I think in the long run, and one of the reasons they stopped making those types of movies is that they saw that sort of pigeonhole, and Elvis got stuck in there for sure, where you just become this little caricature on the screen and you're not
Mm.
respected for what you're doing. And I think John and Paul, especially, probably even George, felt like they were better musicians than the characters they were portraying on the screen. As much fun
Oh.
as Help and a Hard Day's Night were, um, I think they just wanted to get away from it. And when they came back to it with Magical Mystery Tour, that was just another sort of fun farce. But Let It Be, that when they were trying to do with that, for sure, was to bring it back to the studio, and it kind of crashed and burned. Have you ever seen Let It Be?
No.
It's very, very hard to watch. It's a great movie, but you know they're breaking up at that time, and you feel the tension, and they're just trying to record and get through everything, and it was just falling apart.
I don't think I could watch something like that. I think it would like hurt me on inside too much. Obviously,
Yeah.
I mean the Beatles broke up before I was even a thought. They broke up before I was even a thought, yet alone we're together. So like obviously I know they aren't going to be releasing music anytime soon. Um
No,
but
that is
I
for
mean
sure.
like just like the idea, just I don't like talking about any of my favorite bands breaking up because I liked them when they were together, and I can respect the fact that they did break up. Not all, good things never last, but like that would just like kind of hurt me too much a little to watch. So I don't think I'd ever watch that movie.
Yeah, yeah, that one's a tough one. Well, I have a couple quizzes that I've brought up that I thought would be fun if
Yeah, I
you're
heard
up
you
for it.
typing up over there. Yeah.
I know, I have it on my other screen. Um, I put three up here. One's an easy Beatle quiz, and I have to tell you, I only got 7 out of 10 on it, and I'm a pretty big Beatle fan. I was surprised.
I don't think I'm
And
gonna do well at all.
oh,
I think I'm gonna get like one.
oh no, I think you will. But it's interesting. These
Are
aren't
they
like
like dates? Are they like dates? Like this day was recorded or like this date
no,
was
no, no, no.
released or something?
There's
Because I
only
won't get
one
any of
date
those.
on this whole thing. Um, but I've got a lot of pop-ups here. Don't you hate pop-ups? God. um, there's only one date that I remember, but a lot of it is really about the Beatles. Are you a true
I
Beatle
feel
fan?
like I feel like I don't know anything really about the Beatles.
Well, let's see what you know, shall we?
This is just gonna be me having 2 IQ.
It's all good. It's all good. Okay, I don't want to open that. Okay. This is the year one. Okay, in which year did John Lennon and Paul McCartney first meet? 56, 57, 58, or 59?
I don't know. 57. Is
Good guess.
that
That's
right?
correct. That is correct. Question number two. The Beatles first played in Hamburg, Germany in August of 1960. What was the name of the venue? I did not know this one, if it's any
How am I supposed to
consolation,
know that?
because all Beatle fans are supposed to know. Top 10 Club, the Star Club, the Indra, or the Kaiser Keller? The
I've
Kaiser
never even
Keller.
heard of those. You need to say them slower, please.
The Top 10 Club, the Star Club, the Indra, or the Kaiser Keller?
We'll go with the star, whatever that one was.
The Star Club. It's actually the Indra. I did not know that. I said the
I've
Top
never
10
heard of
Club
that.
because I thought that sounded good. What is Paul McCartney's first name? Paul, John, James, Jude.
James?
James Paul McCartney. That is correct. That's always a good trivia question. Which Beatle had the middle name of Paul?
I
It would be
always
Paul.
forget. I always forget that he went by his middle name.
Hmm.
As do I.
Kind of like Joan. Who plays drums on the album version of Love Me Do? I don't know this. Uh, Andy White, Bernard Purdy, Jim Kettler, or Pete Best?
Pete Best.
I would guess Best. Yeah, no, that's right. Andy White. Never heard of him.
Oh,
How
I
can
thought
that
it
be
was
on the
Pete. I
easy
thought it was
Beatle
Pete.
quiz?
I thought it was Pete Best.
Pete Best. Yeah, he was the original drummer, but I guess
Oh,
they had some session drummer.
I
What
I
year?
know there are quite a few Beatles albums that Ringo's not actually playing on.
Is that right?
Yeah, there's quite a few. I
I
know
didn't know
because it hurt me as a Ringo stan. I was like,
that. In which year did the Fab Four release the album titled The Beatles?
you said
60.
there were no dates.
I know I did. These are different set of questions. I don't know if it redid it.
Okay.
64, 66, 68, or 70.
I can't remember the question.
Uh, which year was the album released that was entitled The Beatles?
Okay, that was the one. That was the black one where they're all looking down from the balcony, right?
No, that was like a greatest hits album, and they
Oh,
had a red and a blue.
yeah, I do remember those. Okay. Anyways, continue. The Beatles.
Mhm. I'll give you a
What
hint.
were the
The
dates?
album is
Please
white.
give me the dates.
Oh, 64, 66, 68, or 70.
Oh, the White Beatles album. I just go by colors. On honestly, um, I want to say 68, but I'm
It is,
thinking.
yeah.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, that's a tricky question because a lot of people think it's like one of the beginning ones, and it's not. It's the White Album. How many holes were found in Blackburn, Lancashire? 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, or 500?
What?
It's part of a day in the life. It's part of the lyric. How many holes were found in Blackburn, Lancashire? 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, or 5,000?
3,000.
4.
Okay, I. Okay,
That's a lyric.
I don't
According
even know
to
that lyric.
according to the Beatles, two of these could not be bought. Which is the odd one out? Fun, love, or happiness? That must be a
I know
lyric,
you
and I
can't
don't
buy me
know.
love. Can't buy me fun, fun, fun. Fun. What was it? Love. Okay, it's not love. Love was actually one of the lyrics. What were the other two options?
Fun, love, or happiness.
I think you can't. Fun is the odd one out.
That's what I said too, and it's happiness.
You can't buy fun. That was the real lyric. What? When did they say that?
No, happiness is the right answer. You can't buy me happiness.
No, we're guessing the lyric that wasn't a Beatles lyric.
I've gone to the next screen, but I think that's what that was asking. Yes.
No, because it said which one is the odd one out, and "Can't Buy Me Love" is a real lyric,
Yes.
and "Can't Buy Me Happiness" is a real lyric.
Is it?
So wouldn't it be "Can't Buy Me Fun"?
You would
Well,
think.
when would the Beatles have been like, haha, can't buy me fun? Like that's just like, this sounds so not Beatles
Isn't
esque.
that
I
all
mean,
part of the
maybe
same
I'm
song?
wrong.
Isn't that a part of the same song?
No, I
When it
don't think so.
can't buy you
Can't
happiness.
buy me fun.
Fun is the one that is not on. No, happiness is the one that's on there. Because you said fun, and happiness was the answer it came up with.
Okay, whatever. I'm a sore loser.
This is like an easy test. I think to be honest with you, I think the hard test was the easiest of all of them. Who played the fifth magician in the Magical Mystery Tour film? Did you ever watch Magical Mystery Tour?
Once, I can't remember anything about it.
Oh, you probably wouldn't know, but it's Mal Evans. What was the last Beatles recording to feature John Paul or Paul, Ringo, and George, but not John? I Me Mine, Octopus's Garden, Long and Winding Road, or For You Blue?
Long and Winding Road.
I think you're right. That's correct.
Okay, that was.
Yes. And that is the end of your quiz, and they're not giving me an answer here as to how you did on that. Let's go to the hard one because I thought the hard one was the easiest, and I think you'll do well on this. Who was the only non-member of the Beatles to receive a performance on a performance credit on a record? Sorry, Eric
George
Clapton.
Martin. Oh, performance.
Yeah, Eric Clapton, Billy Preston, Ravi Shankar, or Mick Jagger.
Well, Eric Clapton played the guitar on "While My Guitar Gently Weeps," so I'd just assume it was him.
Okay, it's Billy Preston.
Okay,
because he played on Get Back.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Lennon McCartney sang backing vocals on which Rolling Stones single? I Want to Be Your
I don't
Man.
know.
I Can't Get No Satisfaction.
I've
We
never
Love You,
listened
or
to any Rolling Stone song.
Say Jumpin' Jack Flash.
No, I refuse because I haven't listened to a Rolling Stone song.
Okay, well, it's Jumpin' Jack Flash. Who was the oldest Beatle? John, Paul, George, or Ringo?
I don't know. George. No, John. I don't know.
Ringo.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Ringo. He was born in July, and John was born in October of the same year, 1940, I think. Um, did you know the Beatles are two air signs and two water signs? That's a
I
recipe for
I
failure.
knew I knew Ringo was a water sign and that was it. I only know Ringo's birthday. I couldn't even tell you any of their other birthdays.
In 1967, Strawberry Fields and Penny Lane became the first single since Love Me Do to fail to hit number one. This is the first time since 1962 that they didn't hit number one. What song held it at number two? A Whiter Shade of Pale, Release Me by Engelbert Humperdinck, I'm a Believer by the Monkees, or This Is My Song by Petula Clark.
The monkey song.
That's what I thought. No, it's Release Me by Engelbert Humperdinck. So let's go into Myers Briggs, which is your personality test that you love. And
Yes.
I took this test. Tell me why you enjoy this one so much.
Personally, I enjoy Myers Briggs. Just because I feel like mine is really accurate. And it's so Myers Briggs, it's 4 letters, right? And so thus it can be 16 personalities because each letter can be replaced. Then there's 2 options for each letter. But in your Myers-Briggs, it like each Myers-Briggs type has like a cognitive function stack, so it explains like kind of how your thought process works and like what your cognitive functions are in like order if you're like weakest to strongest. And I think they're very accurate, but I think it's a great way of understanding not necessarily how people think because obviously like no personality test can be 100% accurate, but I just find them interesting and I think for personality tests, the Myers-Briggs is the most accurate I've ever taken. And understanding how people's thought process I think is very interesting. It also because mine was so accurate, my 2 closest friends, they both have the same Myers-Briggs type. And I was reading like, their cognitive function stacks because like, they're both the same type and they're both my 2 closest friends. So I was like, that's funny, lol. So I was reading their cognitive function stack and I was like, wow, people have this kind of thought process. That's so interesting because I definitely don't have that thought process or things like that. I don't know. I just think it's interesting and I think it's accurate. So
So they're different than yours, but they're
yeah.
both the same.
Yeah, which is funny. So my two closest friends are my friend back home from high school and my flatmate here. And they're both INFP. And my flatmate, her like friend from back home on her end has the same Myers-Briggs type as I do. So it's really funny because we're like weird duo versions. Like she and her best friend from back home are INTJ and INFP, and me and my best friend from back home are INTJ and INFP. It's just a very weird duo. We just have like strangely weird things in common.
Now, explain for anybody who's listening what the letters mean that you just kind of rattled off real quickly.
So there's 4 letters. The first category is introvert or extrovert, I or E. And I feel
Mhm.
like that one's pretty self explanatory. Do you recharge your social batteries by being alone? Or do you recharge your social batteries by being with other people? There you go. Got your answer.
And you're an I, you're an introvert.
I am. I actually retook the test, and I got the exact same one. But I thought I would read my percents because I thought that would be fun.
Okay, go ahead.
Um, so my introvert percent. Take a wild guess on how introverted to extroverted I am because it's pretty funny.
I would think 99% intro.
Close. Not 99. Not that.
Oh,
Not that much. I'm 90% introverted, 10% extroverted.
really? So when you need to just get a big old breather, you just go and sit by yourself.
Yeah, and I
Is
think
that
Go ahead.
That's the indicator, is like how you recharge yourself, because I know we had
Yeah,
this discussion.
where do you get the most energy from being alone with yourself or when you're with other people? Cuz like I was
Oh,
thinking about this because I was spending a lot of time with my flatmate and I had like this weird question to myself where I was like, well, if I'm spending so much time with my flatmate, am I really an introvert? But I was thinking and I was like, even when I'm with anybody in general, I feel like I kind of have like this little mini mask on. Like it's that whole like quote unquote nobody really understands me kind of thing. But like I feel the most at peace with myself and the most relaxed and the most true to myself when I'm alone. And when I'm alone, I feel I'm always more productive when I'm by myself. And I feel like significantly calmer. Like somebody can text me and I instantly like get like tense. I'm like, oh,
really?
somebody just texted me. But like I that sounds like so dumb, but like that's true. And that's probably why I
What
have
I
like
had
such a bad response rate is just because like that extrovertedness, even just like texting somebody back can just like be too much for me. But introvert and extrovert is not to confuse being shy and not being shy.
Yeah, I always
There's
think it is. And I
it's
don't
not.
think of you as
They're
shy at all.
they're different things. So being shy is like the fear, quote unquote, of socializing. The like for whatever that reason may be, for like embarrassing yourself or for not feeling competent enough, but being shy is like a fear in some way or shape or form of being more social. So it's people kind of retreating versus introverts aren't introverted and shy can very commonly go together, but they don't always need to go hand in hand. Introverts just typically prefer being alone. So introverted and extroverted is how you recharge versus being shy is like a genuine fear of like socializing. I have quite a few friends who are very extroverted, but they're really shy. So before you get to know them, they're like really, really quiet. They seem very introverted. And then you get to know them and they're like, hey, 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 want to hang out? Let's hang out. Please, let's hang out. And also vice versa, someone like me who I'm not very shy. I don't consider myself a shy person. I consider myself a little more on the quiet side, but I'm not like shy, like afraid. I'm just a little more quiet. Probably not on this podcast because it's a two-on-two conversation. It takes two people to
That's fine.
make a conversation work. But um, I mean, I'm not like I don't have like a fear of like speaking to other people. But when you get to know me, I very rarely am the first person to text unless it's like here's an urgent matter we need to discuss, like please send the notes from class or something, or
Yeah.
I'm like close enough that I'm like yes we should hang out, but most of the time I don't initiate like the first text or anything like that because I'm just like I automatically assume that people are as introverted as I am, and it's always a shock, always, every time, when somebody's more extroverted than I am, which is almost all the time. And so I'm always like, huh, so and so's texting me. Why is so and so texting me? Really? Oh, okay. Um, so I just
Hmm.
like assume people are as introverted as me. So I typically assume that people want space. And so I just don't bother them.
Ah.
Anyways, moving forward. Oh, go
So
ahead.
I got an E on that. I got an extrovert, and I thought that was interesting. I don't really consider myself. I know we've talked about it. You think I'm kind of right in the middle, but I thought the
Mm.
questions were hard to answer, because if you've taken this test, and they have them online, feel free to look up a Myers Briggs test. Is it Myers or Meyer? I don't know.
Myers
There's a
Briggs.
Myers
I
Briggs.
think it is
Um,
Meyer Briggs. Singular, Meyer.
yeah, I'm sure I'm saying it wrong, but the questions were asking things like, would you, in this situation, would you do this? And I think, well, that situation can be so different. It depends. Am I with a group of my church friends or my skating friends, or am I in a group of people I've only just started working with? You handle things very differently. So I found that really hard to answer. And I think that's why I kind of waver, because I've taken this test a number of times, and I sometimes come out with an I and sometimes come out with an E. And I do think I'm
I
right in the
would
middle.
I would consider you a little bit more of an E, and I think this is why. Because I see you very much as a people pleaser. You like peace and
I do.
wanting to make everybody in the situation happy. So I feel like you get more validation when other people around you are satisfied. And I feel like that in turn makes you a little more extroverted because of the
Hmm.
like, I mean, if nobody's around to please kind of thing. I mean, not that like, you don't value your own self pleasure. I'm sure like, you have things that you want to please yourself. But I consider you to like be that like person pleaser, the people pleaser. And so I feel like you get
I
more validation out of that than being alone.
Yeah, I do. When I was just home in Colorado this last week, I was all by myself, like nobody else in the house, not even the dog. I
Oh
was
my God,
all by
that'd be
myself.
heaven.
It was kind of nice, I have to
Yeah.
say. But I
I feel
just
like,
sat
yeah, I
home
feel
and
like you float on the border.
I didn't get a whole lot done. There I was just like, well, I think I'll just sit and binge watch some TV here. Sat home and had some popcorn and just watched TV. Yeah, it was kind of nice. I don't
Mm.
know how long I'd like to do that, but
I could do that for so long. I've been talking to so many people about
ever.
like how the pandemic and COVID and quarantine has made them realize how much they need human interaction. Mostly my introverted friends have been like, "Wow, it made me realize that I do have a little bit of extrovertedness in me because being alone has made me like want to go out and see people." And I experienced that once, I think. Like on my birthday, I was like, man, sucks to be alone on my birthday. This kind of sucks. Mm. But
Yeah, that
like
was hard.
for the most part, over like the whole pandemic in general, I was fine being alone. I like didn't really experience like, oh my God, I need human interaction right now. And if I don't get it, like honestly, this is gonna sound so weird, but if I really feel like I need human interaction, I'll watch like a movie or something. There's people in that.
Even
I'll
though on
watch
the
like
screen.
I'll watch like How I Met Your Mother, and I'll watch other people socialize.
There you go. What is
Yeah.
the S and the N for?
So the S and the N is for intuitive, and the S is for sensing slash observant. I've seen both of those words used. I think sensing is a little more accurate.
The
And the
N is for intuitive.
Yeah, like your
Intuitive
intuition.
begins with an I.
Yeah, I know, intuitive.
It's
It's an N.
nintuitive.
It doesn't.
Okay,
Well, there's already an I in the first category,
it's fine.
so you'd be IITP. Okay.
Carry on.
Anyways, it's an N. Um, so an N is trusting your intuition. It's how you retain information. So
Ah,
an N is somebody who is pattern oriented, will recognize common patterns in like how they observe the world, as well as trusting their intuition and a little bit more of like their logic background versus sensing, which is why I feel like sensing is better than observant in this term, is sensing relies on the five senses. Sensing like how you in and how you personally interact with whatever information. So sensing people, I find personally, I think I've read um
I've heard
are
they
much
exist.
are much more hands-on learning because they want to interact with it
Mm,
versus like intuitives could be a lot more like book learning, book smart, book
mm.
oriented, visual versus like the sensing is like let me work this out myself and do this. So that's like that difference as well as this is like another way that I've also seen it is that intuitives are more likely to take one subject and get to know it super, super in depth versus sensing can kind of get easily bored. So they'll kind of like take snippets of a whole bunch of different subjects but not get to know them super in depth. So like the sensing is like, okay, I figured out how to do this and now I'm going to move on versus an N will look at something and be like, okay, well, I've looked at it from this angle. How can I twist it and look at it from another angle and really get to know whatever I'm really understanding so I have a full comprehension of what I'm dealing with. So the N will go really, really in depth with something versus an S would kind of just bounce to get the
Superficial.
general understanding, the
And you're
overall
an N?
concept. I'm an N.
Gotcha.
I'm very
I've
much an
t-
N.
I've tested both. I I I
I
have
would
the
argue
last.
you're an S.
Yeah, the last two letters I get consistent, but I get an IS and an EN on both. And I think the score on both of those was in the 50 range, like, 52% or 49%, right in there. So I could see why it's kind of wavering. Now it's making a lot more sense as to why I'm getting different things. Okay,
Yeah,
and then
I would consider you an S. I think
an
you're more of an
S.
S. Um,
I think I'm
the
an
next
S.
one is thinking and feeling. This is pretty self-explanatory, I feel as well. Do you lead with your heart or your head?
Oh,
That's
yeah.
pretty much like what is your decision making basis? Do you think things through logically and rationally based off of from a common collective standpoint, or are you really emotionally driven to people? Are you very empathetic? Do you feel for other people really easily? Do you lead with your heart? Thinking versus feeling. You want to know my stat on that? 89% thinking, 11% feeling.
Nice, you little robot, you. I so wish I was a T. That sounds like a very desirable thing to be. And
I love being a T.
yeah, I feel I believe that I am an F for sure. And every test I've taken has come back with an F in that spot. Um,
All of my friends are Fs. I
yeah.
am, and it's weird because like I feel like pretty much all my friends have like more of like an emotional connection than I do, and it makes me like I go it's like a part of me that like I can't quite understand somebody else's thinking, and I just like want to study you. Like I don't quite get it. Hmm. And I find that interesting.
Yeah, I wish I didn't lead with my heart as much because logic is important, and I know you'd like to discuss logic tests and things at a on a future podcast. That'd
Oh
be
yeah, that'll
fun.
be fun.
Yeah, um, but I think yeah, my feelings do take over. And then the last one is a J or a P. Is that what my letter is
Yeah,
there?
J or P, and it's judging versus prospecting. Or sometimes I've seen perceiving as well. I think perceiving is a little bit more accurate. So judgment, you are such a J, and I think because you raised me, I became a J, and Simon is a J too. So I think you rubbed off on us. No, it's a good thing. Being a
Is it?
J is a great thing. Being J is being organized.
Oh, ah, and the
J,
sky opened up and the birds flew out.
yeah. J is like I have a set plan in action. This is so J is like this is what I want to achieve. To do that, I'm going to work backwards from here. And by 3 months into my plan, I'll be here. And
Mhm.
then by that, I'll do blah, 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 and I'll blah, and blah, and da, da, da. And they have the whole thing worked out. It's like a little
Okay,
map in their heads. And
that's
then
an Earth sign thing.
when that gets off, a J, like when a J gets off their plan, they already have a backup plan. They have a backup plan for the backup plan.
I
And
do.
a J's personality type is like I'm off plan. I need to get back on plan
Mhm.
ASAP, as soon as possible.
Yeah.
It's like the first important thing is either adapt the plan to meet the new situation or get back on the original plan as soon as you can. Versus a P is a perceiving. P's are much more go with the flow. So P's are more like, okay, let's do something spontaneous. Or I don't need a plan. I'll figure it out as I go. I feel like FPs are very common and TJs are very common. Thinking and judgment, and F feeling and perceiving. So FJs are a little bit more rare,
Mhm.
and TPs, I think. No, I think TPs can be pretty common. I've seen quite a few TPs, but I feel like TJs is like a really power locked duo, and FPs are a very power locked duo because I feel like I think that feeling is much more to like go with the flow because emotions are less predictable. So it's much more like, well, this is what I'm feeling in this moment, so let's just go with it. Versus like the T's are like, well, this is what logically makes sense, so therefore I will plan accordingly. So I'm also a J.
This explanation you've given here is better than the first time we did this podcast because I didn't
Thank
really
you.
understand a lot of the letters, and that really does put it into good perspective. Yes, I am a planner for sure. I do think though, now that you two are out of the house, um, that I'm feeling myself becoming a little bit more spontaneous, which has and it's
Mm.
been nice. It's definitely uncharted territory for me. Um, but we have, like a couple weeks ago, we decided let's just go to an island and let's just hang out there for the day, which has been great. And we've designated now, you'd be so proud of us. We've designated Thursdays as our beach days.
Oh
and
yeah,
we
she told me
we
that.
call them, yeah, and we don't know where we're going on Thursdays. We just know that we're not going to work or focus or open our computers or whatever. We're just going to go to the beach
That's nice.
and enjoy ourselves. And there's so many beaches here in Florida. It's going to be hopefully a different place every time, and that's exciting to not really
Mm,
know that. I don't want to do too much of it because I need my plan.
right. And
Need to
so
get back on schedule.
I said that I thought you were an ESFJ, right?
I can't remember. I came out
I
ISFJ
Yeah, and I think you're
once.
ESFJ, like the extroverted version of that.
Yeah, and then I came
So
out again. I think I came out as what you just said, and then I also came out as an ENFP. But I think those first two categories, like I said, were so close to the 50 number that
yeah,
it could depend
um,
on my mood when I answered the question.
but I thought I could read out a little bit about the personalities and see
Okay.
if like what see read your personality and read mine and see how they sound about
Okay.
us.
Yeah.
Um, so this is ESFJ. I can read ISFJ if you really don't think this sounds like you when I get into it a little bit more and you're like, no, this isn't right. This is the one that's Monica Geller, so I really think it's you.
Okay.
So
Hey,
the
Monica.
name of the type given by 16 personalities is the consul, which I already feel sounds like you. Um, so consuls are the cheerleaders and quarterbacks. They set the tone, taking the spotlight and leading their teams forward to victory and fame. Um, let's see. Discussing scientific theories or debating European politics isn't likely to capture the consul's interest for too long. Consuls are more concerned with fashion in their appearance, their social status, and their standings of other people. Practical matters and gossip are their bread and butter, but consuls do their best to use their powers for good. They're altruists. They take serious responsibility to help and do the right thing. Unlike their diplomat relatives, however, which is another personality type, people with the consul personality type will base their moral compass on established traditions and laws, upholding authority and rules rather than drawing their morality from philosophy or mysticism. Um, so consuls love to be of service, enjoying any role that allows them to participate in a meaningful way so long as they know that they are valued and appreciated. This is especially apparent at home, and consuls make loyal and devoted partners and parents. Consul personalities respect hierarchy and they do their best to position themselves with some authority at home and at work, which allows them to keep things clear, stable, and organized for everyone. How do you feel like that sounds?
Pretty close. It does sound a bit. I don't know.
Do you want me to read a little bit of ISFJ and see if that sounds a little bit closer?
Yeah, it sounded like a little bit more of a party person than I am.
Okay, let me read the introverted version, which is the defender. Um, so, defenders are often receptive to change and new ideas, and so with so many things, people with the defender personality type are more than a sum of their parts, and it is the way they use their strength that defines who they are. There's hardly a better type to make up such a large percentage of the population, nearly 13%. Combining the best tradition and their desire to do good, defenders are found in the lines of work such as history behind them, such as medicine, academics, and charitable social work. They are often meticulous to the point of perfectionism, and though they can procrastinate, they can always be relied on to get the job done on time. Defenders take their responsibilities personally, consistently, going above and beyond, doing everything they can to exceed expectations with delight and others at work and at home. I feel like that sounds a little bit more like you.
That sounds very much like me.
The
Yeah, I don't know
challenge
if
for
I'm that
defenders is
I.
ensuring what they do is noticed.
Oh, that's so true. It's like, why would
Yeah,
I do it if nobody notices?
they have
No, it's
they have a tendency to underplay their accomplishments, and while their kindness is often respected, more cynical and selfish people are likely to take advantage of this dedication and humbleness by pushing work onto them and then taking the credit. Defenders need to know when to say no and to stand up for themselves if they are to maintain their confidence and enthusiasm. Which I feel like that would like
that sounds way more like me.
okay.
I hate to leave Monica Geller in the other bucket because I feel like I'm her,
Maybe
but
Monica Geller
yeah.
is just a little more extroverted than you are. Would you like to hear mine?
Seriously, man, I watch Friends and I think, yeah, that girl is me. Okay,
um,
read you.
I was watching it with my flatmate who hasn't seen Friends before, so we've been watching it, and it makes me realize how close I am to Ross Geller. Like it's kind of terrifying.
Why?
He's just like
Why?
this
Because of the
brainiac
dinosaur thing?
nerd. Yeah, I used to want to be a paleontologist. He's just like such a brainiac nerd, and I just like very much connect with him on that standpoint, which is weird. He's ISTJ, so we're one letter off, um,
Hmm.
but we're very similar. Anyways, so INTJ is what I am. We're known as the architect. Also, I don't know why I feel a sense of pride saying this because some people would consider this a bad thing, but INTJ is the most common personality type in Myers Briggs to be associated with antagonists in fictional characters. I don't know why I really enjoy that. I find a sense of pride in that. Like a whole bunch of antagonists are INTJs, but also my favorite book character is an INTJ, and he's a protagonist. So whatever. Anyways, let's talk about the INTJ personality type.
Okay.
First of all, the first line is it can be lonely at the top, and if that doesn't describe me, I don't know what else does. I'm kidding. Okay, okay. Rational and quick witted, architects may struggle to find people who can keep up with their nonstop analysis of everything around them. A thirst for knowledge, these personalities can be both the boldest of dreamers and the bitterest of pessimists. Architects believe that through willpower and intelligence, they can achieve even the most challenging of goals, but they may be cynical and about human nature more generally, assuming that most people are lazy, unimaginative, or simply doomed to mediocrity. They derive much of their self esteem from their knowledge and mental acuity. In school, people with this personality type may have been called bookworms or nerds, but rather than taking these labels as insults, many architects embrace them. They are confident in their ability to teach themselves about any matter, any topic that interests them, whether that's coding or classical music. They can be single minded with little patience for frivolity, distractions, or idle gossip. That said, it would be a mistake to stereotype these personalities as dull or humorless. Many architects are known for their irreverent wit, and beneath their serious exteriors, they often have sharp and delightfully sarcastic sense of humor. That's my personality
That
type.
is you to a T.
Isn't that like kind of like crazy accurate?
I wouldn't change a thing on that. That is you.
That literally, it's like every single word they said there was like, I the first time I read that through, I was like, wait, wow. I was like, wow,
Did it
okay.
have your picture underneath the description?
Yeah. What's weird is like, I mean, I think it's because I'm like so far into each percent. Like how you said you were like kind of bordering on like 50 with like all of them. Like all
Mhm.
of mine are like 70 or higher. Like I'm so far into like each of the zones.
Yeah.
But I I think every year because like since I found that personality test, since I was like I don't know, in grade 7, I've taken it and I've always gotten INTJ every single time.
Really. As
Yeah.
opposed to me, who gets something different every time I take it. So I'm like, well, I don't know. Well,
But
that's interesting. I'm glad you took the time to differentiate the letters. That really helped a lot. And I think
com-
it's fun to take those kind of tests. I love taking personality tests
yeah,
and things like that. It's just fun. You're not going to
comparing
live
with
your life by it, but
comparing with my flatmate, it's been very interesting to see the difference in like the way we think about things, which has been very interesting because she also really likes it and enjoys it. So a lot of times we like make jokes about it when we do something that's very stereotypical to our personality type. We'll be like, haha, could you act more like an INFP? Or like, wow, you're acting like such an INTJ thing right now, or something. Because she's a P and I'm a J, right? So she'll be like really spontaneous and I'll be like, no, we need a plan. And she's like, Joan, tell me you're a J without telling me you're a J. And I'm like, uh. So we've been like really enjoying doing that a lot lately. Is just tell it like making jokes at like pointing out anytime we do anything remotely related to our personality type.
nice.
Yeah.
All right. And that'll wrap up Myers or Meyer Briggs. Feel free to Google
Hmm.
that and let us know what the correct thing is. We need to wrap up pretty soon from here. So we don't take up too much time. Next time, we want to talk about some culture clashes. And I know you've been studying Korean,
I
and
have been
we
studying
didn't
Korean.
really get time to go into language too much this
Should we
time. Do you
do our
have language
language
stuff?
check-in?
I haven't had a lot of time to do anything this week, but go ahead and do yours.
I also don't really have. I don't really have anything to teach.
Okay,
Um,
hold it for
but I've
next
just
week
been
because we have a
studying a lot.
whole, yeah, we have a whole segment to do on culture clashes and things that you have mentioned. I know that you found, oh, when you introduce somebody in Korean, it's different than if you do introduce people here, and things that you can do in different cultures that actually are offensive that
Oh
we don't
yeah.
even know about. And that kind of strikes my nerve with not wanting to really offend too many people. I would be
I'm very like a lot. I'm a lot more
aware.
conscious of that. One, since I moved, because a backwards peace sign in the UK is flipping
Mhm.
somebody off, and that's not rude at all in the United States. So I have been a little more conscious of that. But
Yeah.
since learning Korean, I feel like I've been a lot more conscious of just like cultural differences and like trying to be a
Mhm.
little more like, I don't want to say less like stuck in my ways, not that I was stuck in my ways, but like more cultural conscious of like what I'm
Yeah.
doing, even if I don't think it's offensive or know it's offensive, it could be offensive to somebody else in their culture, and like trying to
Yeah.
be minded of that. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll
It'll
get
be a
into
fun
that pretty
discussion.
in depth, which will be fun. That'll be, yeah, it'll be fun. And then with that, I want to talk about the different generations and which one is the best, which obviously is my generation by far.
Oh, of course.
Generation X, Y, and Z, and the millennials. And I can't remember which one of those is the millennials, but
Why? It's why.
is it Y?
Gen Y.
Differences between those. So that'll be fun. So join us next time, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you have taken the Myers Briggs personality test, please let us know. We would love to hear what personality type you are. Um, and if you also took the Beatles quiz along with us and you wanted to laugh at how bad I did at that, please make fun of me.
I did
Um,
too. There's got to be a better Beetle quiz out there.
yeah. We have social medias that you can follow us on and keep up to date with us, chat with us, let us know what your personality types are, what language learning updates you have for us on Facebook and on Instagram, both of which are just girls across the pond. If you're watching us on YouTube to watch our beautiful little faces talking with each other, thanks. Make sure to subscribe, hit the little post notification bell so you don't miss an upload. And if you're listening to us on a podcast streaming platform, thank you also. We are happy to have you here. Thanks for staying this far. Be sure to rate us 5 stars because we're cool. So, what can I say? That's all.
Nice.
That's all. That's all I had to say.
All right. We'll catch up with you later. Thanks for tuning in.
Bye, everyone.